J.R. Smith, second game winner of the year. How good is this guy?
He's good.
Should he be starting? Or do you like how they bring him off the bench? Because I think that's an interesting question. I'm not saying, look, I'll get your response first, and then I'll say what I think.
No, go ahead. I want to hear. Well, you got it going. Think about it. Say it.
I think J.R. Smith is a guy that could start as a 2-guard on easily half the NBA teams in the league.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that the Knicks have the depth and talent to make him their 6th man is huge. And I think once Amari makes a comeback, you're going to have 2 starting caliber players as part of your second 5. You truly will go 10 deep.
Yeah, and that's what they want to do. And when you have J.R. Smith and Amari coming off the bench and give your guys like Felton and Kidd and Melo some rest, even Chandler, because you're going to be able to bring Stoudemire in to play the 5 a little bit. Not a lot. He's not going to be asked to play 20 or 30 minutes at the 5. But if you can get him for 5-10 minutes a game at the 5 position to give Chandler that little bit of an extra breather so he's a little bit fresher down the stretch, that's all going to be big, and it's going to matter. We've talked about it. This is an older ball club, believe it or not. The guys they went out and signed, and Jason Kidd, Kurt Thomas, Camby, Rasheed Wallace, all these guys are well past their prime. They're old. They're flat out old in NBA terms. But you look at it as now you can bring in guys like J.R. Smith and Amari and some other guys to help give the kid Copeland, who's played really well when he's got in the game. Novak comes off the bench great. You bring in some other pieces, all of a sudden things aren't looking so bad. And guys are staying fresher. They're not getting as injured as often. When you don't have to ask Rasheed for 25 minutes, when you can say, listen, Rasheed, get your 10 to 12 minutes, you go in, grab a couple boards, get a couple points.
Shoot a 3 or 2. Have fun.
Have fun. That's what it's about. Because then you can keep these guys fresh, you can keep them loose, and everybody stays happy. I really think that if Amari can come in with the mindset of I'm going to do everything I can to help this team win, and he does it, I think this team's going to be really, really dangerous come playoff time. I really do. I don't think they're going anywhere. I don't think that they're going to have a big downward slide like the Nets have had after their start or some of these other teams have had. I think the Knicks can sustain a winning record and keep building on it. I really do.
I do too. We're in our chat room. There's a slight debate going on the consistency of a player like J.R. Smith.
Listen, but that's what the good thing about bringing him off the bench as a 6th man. If he's cold one night, you keep him a little more on the bench.
You say, hey, JR, tonight's not your night. Exactly.
And not that you're not going to give him minutes and he's not going to try. He's a streaky guy. He's going to get hot. He's going to get cold. When he's hot, you got to ride him as long as you can ride him.
Well, that's what I actually put in the chat room.
And what I like is he doesn't have a fear. I like a guy who wants the ball in his hands when the game matters most. I want a guy who craves it. I want a guy who wants it. I was always that guy. I wanted the ball. Whether or not I got it was a different story, but I wanted the ball. I was that kind of player, and I love that kind of player. J.R. Smith is that guy. He's not afraid to chuck it up from anywhere on the court.
No, which it can drive you nuts at times.
It could drive you nuts at times, but other times you just look at it and you're just like, after he drains a 35-foot 3, and you're like, why was he even shooting that? But then you're like, he hit it. So that's pretty awesome. But he is just not, he's fearless. And I want a guy who's fearless on the court. I want a guy, he's a high-energy guy too, which brings that energy right off the bench. And everybody he comes in, he gets them pumped up. Everybody gets. I get pumped up just talking about him.
Good.
That's the kind of energy.
Get pumped up.
But that's what I'm saying.
Get pumped up.
That's the kind of energy this kid brings. So that's what J.R. Smith can do. I've liked it ever since the signing last year. I'm a fan. I'm really looking forward to seeing what this team can put together as the year goes on.
You know, it's funny that you say that because last year, before the Knicks signed him, I actually was hoping Chicago would sign him to be their 2-guard. because the one spot Chicago's really weak at is 2 guard, and I think J.R. Smith, I actually agree with every little word that you said about J.R. Smith. I love that guy. I agree. He can throw up shots at times that just make you scratch your head and you're like, what are you doing? But at other times, he like you said, he wants the ball and he plays with the confidence of a superstar. Though he may not be at the superstar level, he plays with the confidence of a superstar. And when he's on, he plays like a superstar.
Yeah.
He can score with anybody in the NBA. There's not a single player you can name in this entire league that J.R. Smith can't score with. And I don't question that for a second. He's been an inconsistent player his entire career, all the way back to when he was in Denver. And that's just who he is. He is going to have nights where he could drop 30 to 40 on you. And then he's going to have nights where he's going to shoot 3 of 18, and he's going to give you a freaking headache because he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. And that's just the reality of it. But J.R. Smith is a guy that has shout out to Pixel Junkie in our chat room. J.R. Smith to me is a guy that has all the potential in the world and just needs the time. And he gets the time. He gets a very nice role in New York. And when you got your scorers out, he easily steps up and fills the role for him. I like J.R. Smith, man. I was really impressed. It was a nice jump shot.
On what Mike said, it's a hot streak. J.R. Smith will go cold at some point. He'll have bad games. He'll have nights where he'll go 4 for 13 shooting. And you're like, geez, I wish he didn't shoot the ball so much. But you take the good with the bad, and that's the good thing about it is he's not a starter. He's a sixth man. He comes off the bench. He brings you that energy. Even if he's missing shots, though, he's still bringing energy, and he's still giving effort. And he's still trying his hardest. I appreciate the effort, and I think that effort and that energy shows throughout the team. But do I think he's going to stay this hot all year? I'll say right now, Mike, he's not going to stay this hot all year. But he was hot last night when the Knicks needed him, when Felton and Melo were both out, and they needed somebody to step up and be that scorer. He said, it's my time to shine, and he did it. Did it in crunch time. Did it in crunch time. When it matters most.
And it's his second game winner of the year. And you know what, Christina, I can't argue with that one. The one fact of the matter, and it's true as all hell about sports, is obviously if they lost, people would have comments about this or that, so on and so forth about, like, oh, well, do they really have the depth and lose Felton and lose Melo? And you know what? I completely agree. But the simple fact of the matter is they won. And they won because of a J.R. Smith winning jumper. And let's not forget the fact that he hit the jumper that tied it at 97 apiece before they forced the turnover with 1 second left. So this man not only won them the game, but he's the reason that they didn't have to foul on the final possession. And they actually could go for a turnover instead. The guy can score. He knew he had to step up, and he stepped up big time. And I think J.R. Smith is a guy that, and I agree with Mike, he's going to hit a cold streak sooner or later. But if you're a Knicks fan, you want him to play like this when the playoffs get here. Because if he does, that's another anywhere between 15 and 20 points, and that's coming off your bench from one guy. And if that happens in the playoffs, that would be huge for them.